So you're trying to be responsible with your morning coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more than just needing that caffeine boost, right? It's about like knowing what's actually going on before that cup even makes it to your hands.
Definitely. It's, a whole global system from the farms to like your cup.
Speaking of farms, did you know that like 70% of all coffee just comes from 5 countries?
Wow.
It's a lot of power, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you start to think, like, how can we make sure things are sustainable when it's all so concentrated? And that's kind of what we're looking at today with the GCP Snapshot 2022 report, right?
Yeah. It's super detailed, but it's got some really great info on the state of sustainable coffee.
Okay, so, like, diving right in, the report says that 2022 saw, like, record purchases of sustainably produced coffee. So that's good news, right?
It is. But context is everything. Yeah.
Okay, so more to the story.
Yeah, the report stresses that, like, just buying more sustainable coffee isn't enough on its own. We need to address the, like, systemic issues that still exist for coffee farmers and the environment.
So it's like, yeah, celebrate the progress, but don't forget the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's not just about individual choices, but about understanding the whole system, like
Yeah.
all the way from the farms to our cups,
Yeah.
and then making things more equitable at every step.
Like, you might love a band, right? But
Right.
just listening to them isn't enough for them to, like, actually make a living.
Right.
Okay, so getting into the nitty-gritty here, one of the big numbers was over 26 million bags of sustainably sourced coffee bought in 2022. That's got to be, what, like, enough to fuel, like, a small country on caffeine alone?
It's huge. That actually represents something like 70% of all the coffee that these companies purchased.
Wow, 70%. I mean, that's going to mean the coffee industry's making some real progress here.
It does look good, right?
Mhm.
But that's still only something like 15% of global coffee consumption.
So we've still got a ways to go before sustainable is, like, the default, not the exception.
Exactly.
So what's holding everyone back then? Is it, like, cost? Not enough people know?
It's probably a bit of everything, honestly. And the report talks about those things. It actually points to an increase in second-party sustainability schemes.
Second-party schemes, what are those?
It's basically when coffee companies partner directly with the farms, kind of like direct trade.
Oh, so they work directly with the farmers, make sure they're paid fairly, and then, like, also have more control over how sustainable things are.
Yeah, exactly.
Seems promising, but I'm guessing it's not as simple as it sounds.
It never is. I mean, just because a company has a direct relationship with a farm doesn't mean it's automatically good for the farmers or the planet.
Yeah.
You have to really, like, look at what's happening.
Right, just putting sustainable on something doesn't magically make it true. This is where the whole transparency thing comes in, huh?
Yeah, the report really pushes for consumers to have more information about their coffee's journey, where it's from, and what those sustainability claims really mean.
So we need to understand, like, the whole supply chain, not just a label.
Yes, exactly.
So, like, this is getting kind of complex, huh?
Yeah.
It's not just about buying from a brand that, like, checks the right boxes. We need to actually understand what they're doing and how it all works.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual companies either. The report actually points out a risk with how, like, the whole coffee industry works.
Oh. Like what?
Well, remember how most coffee comes from just those 5 countries?
Yeah, kind of scary how much power they have.
It's a potential weak point. I mean, it's great those countries are doing good work, but if we rely on them too much and something happens.
Right, like a natural disaster or, like, something political happens, suddenly no more coffee.
Exactly. We need more countries producing sustainably. It's safer that way.
And more places for farmers to benefit, right. Plus, it makes the whole thing more stable, doesn't it? It's kind of wild how connected this all is.
It really is. And it shows how important it is for everyone to work together, which is something the report really emphasizes.
So it's not just on us to buy the right coffee. It's on the whole industry to, like, do things better.
Yeah, exactly. Farmers, companies, even as coffee drinkers,
Yeah.
all got to be in this together.
Which kind of makes you wonder, like, what does the future of sustainable coffee even look like? Where do we go from here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And actually, the report touches on that too. It suggests maybe we need to think bigger than just sustainable and aim for regenerative instead.
Regenerative. Okay, now I'm really curious. What does that even mean when we're talking about coffee?
It's pretty cool, actually. So sustainable coffee is about doing less harm, right? But regenerative coffee is about actually healing and helping the environment. Imagine coffee farms that make the soil healthier, bring back more plants and animals, even help fight climate change.
Wait, coffee could help fight climate change?
It's a possibility. There are already farms and companies trying things like agroforestry.
Agroforestry, that's a new one.
So basically, it's like instead of fighting nature, you work with it. Imagine coffee plants growing with other trees and plants, just like you'd see in a natural forest.
That's so cool. It's like we stop just taking and we start giving back.
Exactly. It's a whole different way of thinking. Coffee could be more than just a sustainable choice. It could actually help make the planet healthier.
That's pretty amazing to think about. And it shows that even something as like every day as a cup of coffee can lead to these big, important ideas.
It really does. And the more we understand these connections, the more we want real, honest information about what we're buying.
Right. Like we've talked about transparency a lot today, but how can we actually make sure people have that information when there's just so much to know?
It's the challenge, for sure. But the report had some interesting ideas. Like, what if companies put more info right on the coffee bag itself?
Instead of just those little symbols, we get like the whole story.
Exactly. Imagine scanning a code on your coffee, and you can see exactly where those beans came from, what the farm is doing to be sustainable, even what their impact is on the community.
That'd be incredible. I'd love to know, like, the whole journey of my coffee.
Me too. That's the kind of transparency that can really change things.
And it's like what we were talking about before. People care more and more about where their food comes from.
It's true. The more we know about how our choices affect the world, the more we want to make sure those choices are good ones.
It makes you realize even something as simple as coffee can spark these bigger conversations about sustainability and, like, global responsibility.
It really does.
Yeah.
And those are conversations worth having, one cup at a time.
It's like you can keep a lawn mowed or you can, like, actually make the soil better, right?
Exactly. It's a whole different way of thinking about things. We stop just trying to take less and actually try to give back.
So how does that work with coffee? What are people actually doing to make it regenerative?
Well, we were talking about agroforestry earlier. It's a great example. You know how like forests have all those layers of plants and trees?
Yeah.
It's like that. Instead of just rows of coffee plants, you've got this whole ecosystem growing together.
So you're working with nature instead of just planting one thing.
Right. And it's not just good for the environment. It can make the soil better, help with water, and even make the farm stronger against, like, diseases.
So healthier for the planet and better for the farmers. Sounds like a win-win. What else are people doing?
Composting is huge. You put that organic matter back into the soil, and it's like superfood for the ground. It holds water better, grows good microbes.
I never thought about composting making such a big difference.
It can. And all of this, it doesn't just help the environment, it can actually make the coffee taste better and help the farmers grow more too.
So being good to the planet is good for business. Makes sense. It really drives home that sustainability and making a living, they can go hand in hand.
Exactly. And that's what's so important about all this. What we choose to buy, how the industry does things, and what farmers are doing on the ground, it's all connected. We can make a real difference.
This has been amazing. I mean, I knew coffee was complicated, but this report has been eye-opening.
I agree. It really shows the potential of the coffee industry, doesn't it?
Totally. And for anyone who wants to, like, really dive into this stuff, you can find the full report online, right?
Yep, the GCP Snapshot 2022. Just search for Global Coffee Platform, and you'll find it.
It's a bit of a long read, but trust us, it's worth it. All right, until next time, everyone, remember there's a whole world behind every cup of coffee. Make it a good one.